You ever think your life is finally on stable ground, only for someone to rip the floorboards out from under you? That's exactly how I felt the night my dad introduced me to the love of his life. I'm Alex, 27, and for the last few years I've been living in the house my grandparents left me. It wasn't some giant mansion, but it was mine. Cozy, paid off, filled with the kind of history that makes walls feel alive. I worked hard to restore it, patching up leaks, refinishing the old oak floors, even planting a small vegetable garden in the back. That house wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was the first place I truly felt safe after years of family chaos. So when Dad showed up with a woman nearly 15 years younger than him, I didn't think much of it at first. He'd dated on and off since the divorce, but usually the relationships fizzled out quickly. This one, though, she had a different kind of energy. Her name was Vanessa. At first glance she was all charm, long dark hair, perfectly manicured nails, a laugh that filled the room like she'd rehearsed it. She shook my hand and called me sweetheart, like we were already family. My dad's face lit up around her in a way I hadn't seen in years. Honestly, I wanted to be happy for him. But something about her eyes made me uneasy. They didn't quite match the smile. We sat around the dinner table that night, eating takeout because Dad had insisted we celebrate. He kept bragging about how Vanessa made him feel young again, how she understood him, how they had big plans for the future. I noticed the way Vanessa's gaze lingered on the framed photos on my walls, pictures of my grandparents, the certificate proving the house had officially passed to me, even the DIY projects I'd hung proudly. She didn't look at them like they were sentimental. She looked at them like they were assets. And then, halfway through dessert, she casually dropped the bomb. "So, Alex," she said, her tone syrupy sweet. "You must be thinking about moving out soon, right? I mean, with your father and me starting a family, we'll need a little more room." I nearly choked on my drink. My fork clattered against the plate. Dad just kept eating, not even looking up, like this was a perfectly normal thing to say. My pulse hammered in my ears. This wasn't just a dinner. This was an ambush. And I hadn't even heard the worst part yet. The silence after her words was deafening. I stared at her, half expecting a laugh, a wink, some sign that she was joking. But Vanessa just smiled, sipping her wine like she hadn't just suggested I pack up my life and hand her the keys. "Excuse me," I finally managed. Dad cleared his throat and set down his fork. "What Vanessa means," he said, avoiding my eyes, "is that things are changing. We're moving into a new phase." Then came the kicker. Vanessa leaned forward, resting a hand on Dad's arm like she was announcing a promotion. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air like smoke. Dad's face broke into this goofy grin, his eyes shining like a man 20 years younger. He looked over at me, waiting for applause, for me to throw confetti or something. But all I could do was blink. Pregnant. And already talking about me moving out. "Congratulations," I said stiffly, my voice clipped. "But what does that have to do with my home?" Vanessa tilted her head, her smile tightening. "Oh, come on, Alex. Be reasonable. Babies need space. Families need space. This house is perfect for raising a child. And you're young, independent. Surely you can find an apartment somewhere closer to the city. It's only fair." Fair. The word sliced through me. My grandparents had built this house with their own hands. They'd left it to me because they knew what it meant to me. And now, after a handful of months, this woman thought she could waltz in, claim my dad's attention, and push me out of the only place I'd ever called home. I turned to Dad, searching for some flicker of sense in his eyes. But he wouldn't meet my gaze. Instead, He raised his glass. To new beginnings, he said, clinking it against Vanessa's. My stomach twisted. This wasn't a celebration. It was a takeover. And from the way Vanessa looked at me across the table, I knew this was only the beginning of the war she planned to fight. The days that followed felt like I was living with a stranger who thought she already owned the place. Vanessa started showing up more and more, carrying overnight bags that soon turned into entire boxes. One morning, I walked into the kitchen and found my grandmother's china packed neatly into bubble wrap. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. She smiled like she was humoring a child. "Oh, just making room. Babies need cabinet space, you know. Bottles, formula, all that." "That's not your decision," I snapped. "This is my house." Her smile flickered, but only for a second. "Alex," she cooed, "your dad and I are building a future here. Don't you want to be part of something bigger than yourself?" I wanted to laugh in her face, but Dad walked in just then, tying his tie, humming to himself. He kissed her cheek, looked at the wrapped-up dishes, and said, "Good thinking, babe. We'll need the space." I stood there, stunned. My dad wasn't just letting her take over, he was encouraging it. From then on, Vanessa moved with this eerie confidence, like the house had already been signed over. She started rearranging furniture, criticizing the paint colors, and even drawing up nursery ideas with pastel swatches taped to the wall. At dinner one evening, she brought out a glossy pamphlet for baby cribs. "We'll put it in the spare room," she said casually, sliding the brochure across the table. "That's my office," I said flatly. "Not for long," she chirped. I clenched my jaw, my hands tightening around my fork. It wasn't just about a room, or paint, or cabinets. It was about her trying to erase me from my own life, one piece at a time. And the worst part? Dad was letting her. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I realized something terrifying. If I didn't fight back soon, I might actually lose everything my grandparents left me. The showdown came on a Saturday morning. I was fixing a loose hinge on the back door when Vanessa waltzed in, phone in hand, scrolling with that smug little smile she always wore. She didn't even glance at me before saying, "We've been looking at cribs online. The good ones aren't cheap, you know. But since you'll be moving out soon, maybe you can help cover the cost instead." I dropped the screwdriver, the clatter echoing through the kitchen. "Moving out soon? Vanessa, let me make this perfectly clear. I'm not leaving. This is my home." She finally looked at me, her eyes narrowing like I was some insolent employee talking back to a boss. "Alex," she said slowly, "I'm carrying your father's child. That makes me family. This house should belong to us, our growing family, not you. Don't you think your dad deserves to raise his baby in a proper home?" My chest burned, fury bubbling up, but before I could respond, Dad walked in. He froze at the sight of us, tension crackling in the air. "Vanessa," I said, my voice steady but low, "you've been here 5 minutes and already think you get to dictate who lives where? Newsflash, this house was left to me. My name is on the deed." Dad rubbed his temples, sighing. "Son, can't you just be flexible? Vanessa's right. A baby changes everything. We need stability." I turned to him, disbelief washing over me. "Stability? You mean me giving up my home so you two can play house?" Vanessa stepped closer, her hand protectively on her stomach. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You're young, independent. You can start fresh anywhere. But your father and I, we need this place. It's only fair." That word again. Fair. I felt the weight of my grandparents' memories pressing down on me. the laughter that once filled these rooms, the sweat and love that went into every beam and nail. And now, some entitled stranger thought she could claim it all just because she was having a baby. I looked at both of them, my hands trembling with anger. "No," I said firmly. "This is my home. And I'm not going anywhere." For the first time, Vanessa's smile cracked. The next week was quiet. Too quiet. Vanessa stopped with her constant chirping about our future nursery, and didn't even argue when I told her to leave my office alone. At first, I thought maybe my words had finally sunk in. But silence in a war is never peace, it's plotting. I found out on Thursday. I came home from work to see my dad in the living room, pacing with a phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, serious, the kind of tone he only used when something was wrong. When he noticed me, he flinched like a kid caught stealing cookies. "Who was that?" I asked. He shoved the phone into his pocket. "Just work stuff. But Dad's retired." My gut twisted. Later that night, curiosity got the better of me. His phone buzzed on the counter while he was in the shower, and the screen lit up with a text from Vanessa. Did the lawyer say it's possible? We can't let him dig his heels in forever. My blood ran cold. A lawyer? For what? My house. I felt like the walls were closing in. My own father, the man who had watched me scrape and save to restore this place, was secretly scheming with a woman he'd known for less than a year to push me out. When he came out of the bathroom, towel around his neck, I confronted him. "Dad, don't lie to me. Why is Vanessa talking about a lawyer?" His face hardened, but his eyes darted away. "She just wants to explore options. For the baby. Don't take it personally. Don't take it." I cut myself off before the fury boiled over. This is my house. You can't just lawyer your way into it because she wants more closet space. "She's carrying my child," he shot back, his voice suddenly sharp. "I have to think about what's best for my family." There it was. My family. As if I wasn't even part of it anymore. I stared at him, betrayal burning deeper than any anger. "So that's what I am now? Some obstacle you two can bulldoze over? Guess what, Dad, lawyers or not, I'm not moving. Not now, not ever." For the first time in years, I saw him hesitate. Not because he doubted Vanessa, but because he realized I wasn't going to roll over and take it. And that scared him. It didn't take long for the whispers to start. My aunt called me first, her voice syrupy with fake concern. "Alex, honey," she said, "Vanessa told us you're making things difficult. She's pregnant, you know. She needs peace, not stress." I nearly dropped the phone. "She called you? What exactly did she say?" "That you're refusing to move out, even though the baby will need space. Honestly, sweetie, don't you think you're being a little selfish?" Selfish. The word made my stomach twist. This wasn't just about space, it was about ownership, about my home. But clearly Vanessa had been painting me as some stubborn, heartless villain to anyone who would listen. By Sunday, it all came to a head. I walked into the dining room to find Vanessa perched at the table like a queen holding court. My dad sat beside her, grim and silent. Across from them, my aunt, uncle, and even my cousin, people who hadn't visited in months. "What is this?" I asked, my voice low. Vanessa folded her hands delicately over her belly. "A family meeting," she said smoothly. "We need to resolve this unpleasantness before it tears everyone apart." I laughed. Bitter, sharp. Unpleasantness? You're trying to steal my home. My dad flinched, but Vanessa didn't miss a beat. "Alex, no one is stealing anything. We're just asking you to be compassionate. This house is wasted on a single man. But with us, it could be a real family home. My aunt chimed in, nodding like a trained puppet. She's right. Babies need stability. Don't you want your little brother or sister to grow up in a safe, happy home? The words safe and happy stung. Because this house was safe. It was happy, until Vanessa set foot in it. I stood tall, my hands flat against the table. Let me remind all of you, this house was left to me. My name is on the deed. Not my dad's. Not Vanessa's. Mine. And if you think guilt-tripping me is going to work, you're wrong. The room fell silent. For the first time, Vanessa's mask slipped, just a crack. Her eyes flashed cold, calculating. She leaned forward, her voice low but dripping with venom. You're making a mistake, Alex. You can't win this. But inside, a fire lit up in me. For the first time in weeks, I felt certain. Oh, I can, I said. And I will. I thought the family meeting would be the low point. I was wrong. 3 nights later, I came home from work to find the front door unlocked. My gut clenched. I knew I'd locked it that morning. Inside, the hallway was lined with boxes. My boxes. Clothes, books, even framed photos I'd hung with care. And there she was. Vanessa, standing in the living room with her hands on her hips, directing 2 of my dad's buddies like she was running a moving company. What the hell is this? I demanded. She turned, her smile wide and sugary. We're helping you get a head start. It's time, Alex. The baby's coming. You need to be out so we can settle in. One of the guys actually had my grandmother's quilt in his hands. I snatched it away, my voice shaking with rage. Put everything back. Now. Dad walked in from the kitchen, looking exhausted, like he'd aged 10 years overnight. Alex, maybe it's easier this way. Less fighting. Easier. My voice cracked. You're letting her throw me out of my own house? Vanessa stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was offering me mercy. Look, I don't want this to get ugly. But if you resist, we'll have to involve legal authorities. Eviction, police, the whole deal. Is that really what you want? I froze, my heart pounding. Eviction? In my house? The sheer audacity almost knocked the air out of me. Vanessa, I said slowly, my hands trembling. You don't seem to understand. I own this place. You can't evict me from my own property. Her smile faltered for a split second, but she quickly recovered. We'll see about that. I looked around at the packed-up pieces of my life, at my father standing there silently, at this woman who thought a baby gave her the right to erase me. Something inside me hardened like stone. If it was war she wanted, then war she'd get. The next morning, I went straight to the county clerk's office. I'd had enough of words, enough of being cornered in my own home. If Vanessa wanted to play the legal game, then I was going to show her just how badly she had underestimated me. It took less than 20 minutes to get a certified copy of the deed. My name, bold and clear, right there in black ink. No Dad. No Vanessa. Just me. I tucked it carefully into a folder and went home, adrenaline buzzing through my veins. Sure enough, Vanessa was there again, perched on the couch with her laptop, already rearranging my life like she was a queen planning her palace. Dad sat beside her, looking worn down, like a man caught between 2 storms. Perfect timing, she said, closing her laptop with a smug snap. We've decided it's best if you move out by the end of the month. That gives you plenty of time. I dropped the folder on the table. Funny. Because according to the law, You two are the ones with no claim here. She frowned, opening the folder. Her eyes scanned the paper, her smirk fading with each line. What is this? It's the deed, I said calmly. The one with my name on it. Not yours. Not Dad's. Mine. This house belongs to me, and it always will. The silence that followed was almost sweet. Dad leaned forward, peering at the document like he'd never seen it before. Vanessa's face turned pale, her hand instinctively going to her stomach. You can't be serious, she stammered. Oh, I'm serious, I said, my voice steady. So here's how it's going to go. You stop packing my things, you stop spreading lies about me to the family, and you stop acting like you own this house. Because if you don't, I won't hesitate to call the police, and trust me, they'll side with the actual homeowner. Dad opened his mouth, then closed it again. For once, he had nothing to say. Vanessa sat frozen, the deed trembling in her hands. And in that moment, I realized something. The power shift had finally begun. I should have known Vanessa wouldn't back down gracefully. People like her never do. 2 days later, I came home to find my driveway blocked by her car. She was inside, sitting dramatically in the passenger seat with the window rolled down, crocodile tears streaking her makeup. Dad stood nearby, looking torn between anger and embarrassment. What now? I muttered, gripping my keys. Vanessa sniffled loudly. Alex, I can't believe you'd do this to your own father. To me. To our baby. I folded my arms. Do what, exactly? Live in the home that legally belongs to me. She gasped, clutching her belly like I'd threatened her. You're stressing me out so much, I could lose this baby. If that happens, it'll be on your conscience. Dad turned sharply. Vanessa. But she plowed ahead, raising her voice so the neighbors could hear. Everyone should know how cruel you're being, Alex. Throwing out a pregnant woman, your father's fiancée, with nowhere to go. What kind of son does that? My jaw clenched. This wasn't a plea, it was a performance. She wanted pity, wanted to flip the narrative so I looked like the monster. So I pulled out my phone. That's funny, I said loudly, hitting record. Because last week, you tried to throw me out of my own house. Shall I show the family chat? Or better yet, should I call the police right now and let them explain who actually owns this property? Her eyes widened as the camera caught every flicker of her act. She scrambled for words, but nothing came. Dad rubbed his face, shame radiating from him. Finally, he muttered, Vanessa, enough. She whipped her head toward him. You're really going to take his side? This isn't about sides, he said quietly. It's about facts. And the fact is, this house isn't ours. The look she gave him could have cut glass. For the first time since she entered our lives, Vanessa realized her game was over. But she wasn't leaving without one last dig. Fine, she hissed. But don't come crawling to me when you realize how ungrateful your son really is. And with that, she slammed the car door, revved the engine, and tore out of the driveway. The silence she left behind felt like fresh air. The house was quiet again, but it didn't feel the same. Not yet. For weeks, Vanessa's presence had lingered like smoke in the walls, boxes half-packed, arguments echoing in my head. Now, finally, there was space to breathe. Dad sat at the kitchen table that night, staring into his coffee. He looked older than I'd ever seen him. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, he said, I just wanted to be happy again. I nodded slowly. I know. And you deserve that. But happiness doesn't come from someone who tries to take away everything that matters to your own kid. His eyes dropped to the table. There was no defense left in him, no excuses. Just a tired man who realized he'd let the wrong person run his life. The next morning, Vanessa's car was gone for good. She'd taken her clothes, her trinkets, even the pastel paint swatches she'd taped to my office wall. A week later, Dad told me she'd blocked his number. Whether she really was pregnant or not, I never found out. And at that point, I didn't care. What I did care about was this house. My house. I walked through every room, touching the walls, the windowsills, the old oak floors I'd refinished. It wasn't just a building. It was a promise my grandparents had left me. A reminder that I wasn't alone, no matter who tried to push me out. For the first time in a long time, I felt grounded. Steady. Dad and I still talk, though things are different. He knows I won't blindly back him up anymore, not when it costs me everything. And maybe, in a strange way, that's a good thing. Boundaries hurt to draw, but they protect what matters most. Sometimes I catch myself staring at the deed framed on my wall, not out of arrogance, but as a reminder. A reminder that no matter how hard someone tries to rewrite your life, you're allowed to stand your ground. Because home isn't just where you live. It's where you refuse to be erased.